What's your favorite theme park ride of all time?
Oh, this is like picking your favorite kid. I'd have to say Jaws. I thought it was just an incredible undertaking from an engineering perspective, from an experiential perspective, just the data and the statistics behind what made that thing really work. But probably the most incredible thing, these projects ultimately have that moment in time where it's all hands on deck. It's really, really pushing many, many long hours. The tougher it is at that moment, the more you bond with a team. So coming out of Jaws are some incredible relationships with people in the industry, really an incredible undertaking.
Hey everyone, Audrey DeLong here. You know what I love? Theme parks. I know, shocker, right? Soon after I moved to Orlando, I landed a job with a production company, and their office was on Universal's backlot. I can go into the park at any time, and I did a lot, probably too much, but it was so much fun to walk around and experience the attractions. Back then, the Incredible Hulk coaster was my favorite ride. So, as you know, Universal is opening a new theme park, 26 years after Islands of Adventure made its debut. Epic Universe is generating a crazy amount of buzz, and now I know why. Don't be jealous, but I was one of the lucky ones who got to experience Epic when it opened for friends and family previews before the official opening. It's unreal. If you love theme parks like I do, it's a must-see. If you want to know firsthand where theme parks are heading, it's a must-see. Your mind will be blown in every single immersive land, or world, as Universal calls them. In between my own oohs and ahs, and yeah, screams too, on their terrifying roller coaster, which is a doozy, I got to thinking about engineering. Epic Universe is packed with so many spectacular attractions, and I'm not just talking about rides. Their live theatrical shows even set a new bar. So, I thought I would invite a few of our FALCON'S Attractions employees to have a conversation with me about engineering entertainment. Also, our lightning round features Ray Paparella, Director of Project Execution. I'm here with Dave Mock, President of FALCON'S Attractions, Lauren Riley, Senior Manager, Design and Engineering, and Rachel Kimball, Staff Mechanical Engineer. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Audrey.
Hello. Morning.
So I want to ask, just really briefly, can you tell us what you do every day? Let me start with Dave.
My responsibility is for the business. It's the profit and loss. It's the engineering execution. It's the project delivery. Spares and maintenance support. But what that really means is I'm here to make sure everyone has the resources, the tools, and the things they need to get the work done. I'm really working for everybody else.
Yeah, and overseeing that whole operation.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Rachel.
I'll jump in on the engineering side. Whatever needs done, we'll do design. Depends on where we're at in the project. We'll do design work, project engineering work, purchasing help, assembly, process stuff, install issues, just whatever needs done, depending on where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Lauren.
So it depends what phase of the projects we're in. So we may be working on the creative side, matching ride systems to a creative concept at the beginning of the project. We may be in a show programming mode where we're creating visualizations and giving our customers, taking their concepts and bringing them to life in a visual way so that we can work very closely with them to make their visions come to life. Or then we're in the technical phases where we're working through the details of the design with our customers, then into the testing of our rides, and then the show programming on site and handing it over to them and letting the guests enjoy what we created.
Well, I can't wait to get into ride programming and all these other things that you do. And there's a lot.
There is.
But I want to ask you first, before we get into the meat of the conversation, I want to know about your favorite theme park ride and why you like it so much. Rachel, can I start with you?
Yeah. So my favorite's Flight of Passage.
Uh-huh.
It's just so immersive. I don't know. I really like it. And the way just all of it together, it feels like a really interactive experience to me.
Were you nervous the first time you went on it?
No. Those rides are safe. It's fine. There's a lot of map. It's fine.
We know it's safe, but there's always that sweaty palm syndrome right beforehand.
It's been tested to death. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Lauren, how about you?
This is probably going to sound strange coming from someone that creates motion profiles, but my favorite ride is Pirates of the Caribbean, which
no
has
way.
the least amount of
Yeah.
profile at all. But just because of the aspect of, the immersion aspect, like Rachel said, and just all of your senses getting taken over in that ride, you really feel like you're immersed in it. The expansion of different areas, so things come in tight, and then you expand into these great areas with the battle scene, and nothing has been able to take that off of my top.
Okay. And Dave?
Oh, this is like picking your favorite kid. I'd have to say Jaws.
Okay.
I thought it was just an incredible undertaking from an engineering perspective, from an experiential perspective, flame and, just the data and the statistics behind what made that thing really work. But probably the most incredible thing, these projects ultimately have that moment in time where it's all hands on deck. It's really, really pushing many, many long hours, and almost the tougher it is at that moment, the more you bond with a team. So coming out of Jaws are some incredible relationships with people in the industry that are obviously leaders of the industry. From Mark Woodbury and Mike Hightower to Chip Largeman, Ron Griffin at Attraction Services. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
But really incredible undertaking.
Yeah, you've had an amazing history. I remember Jaws. I'm going to even out the conversation, though. So we have two Disney favorites, and we have Dave as a Universal favorite. I'm going to throw in a Universal favorite because I think this is my favorite ride of all time. It's Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure. I don't know if that's the complete name of it.
It's a great ride.
Hagrid's Motorbike at Islands of Adventure is amazing. I still can't get my sister to go on it for some reason. But I'm like, it doesn't go upside down. It's just, I don't know, everything about it I love. All right, I want to ask each of you to tell me about one of your favorite memories as an engineer.
So my favorite memory from an engineering perspective was being presented with the Breakthrough Technology Award by Bob Gurr at the Theas. One of my favorite rides is Haunted Mansion. Obviously, that was one of Bob Gurr's, and just his legacy, his status is absolutely incredibly humbling from an engineering perspective.
Okay, that is a good one. Rachel?
Okay, so I don't have a favorite single memory. All of mine are like a collection of tiny little memories working with the team, and I don't know, we get to preview rides sometimes and get to see the behind the scenes stuff. And that to me is still not as fun as being up underneath equipment and passing tools back and forth and checking off on drawings and passing that information back and forth. That's what I love about it. Those are my favorite memories.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very fun. Lauren?
So the first trackless ride that we put in was in Antarctica and at SeaWorld. And the trackless vehicles at that time were like magic to people. When people would stand in the unload station where these vehicles, like magic, are pulling into stations and moving around each other like a dance.
Yeah.
And you would watch people just turn around and just watch the vehicles and be amazed by how they didn't collide with each other. And even the penguins thought it was cool. So the very first time they put the penguins into the exhibit, they were very active in exploring their exhibit. And I was doing the show programming at that time. And the ride vehicle would pull up to the glass, and all of the penguins came and on the other side of the glass and crowded around the vehicle. And as it moved across, they all followed it. And so it was this amazing interaction with animals that was there, and it was a really cool experience for me.
I love that. Well, I want to ask all of you, can you tell me about the steps involved in designing ride vehicles for a theme park attraction?
Sometimes our starting point is someone has an idea on an invention and then find a way to fit it into a ride experience, and then other times they start with the ride experience and work the other way. So why don't you take one of those, Lauren?
Yeah, it starts with trying to bridge that gap between the creative concept that our customer has and matching the right technology to it. So the ride vehicle needs to look creatively like what they want. The skin, the fiberglass, the colors, everything. Very particular about having it look a certain way. And then having it move in a way that moves the guests to give them the experience that they're after. We need to decide, are we going to have, how many axes of motion are we going to have on it? What speed does it need to go? And what speed does it really need to go to give the experience that the people
Right.
need. Maybe it's really about the accelerations that you can put on the guest, not about the speed. So it's taking their creative terms and translating it into technology and what's feasible with technology.
What determines the top speed? And I'm going to give an example. At Universal Islands of Adventure, Velocicoaster is very fast. Obviously, that needed to be fast. So, like, what determines the top speed, and who determines that?
Well, do you physically want top speed like Formula Rossa, which is what, 150 mile an hour coaster in the Middle East, or do you want the perceived speed? Right? So, in some of our attractions, you perceive that you're going even faster than that.
Right.
So it's the balance. For a lot of the things that we're involved in that are more simulation based, visual based. We as humans are largely visual. So I've heard different ratios, but let's say it's 80-20, 80% what you see and 20% what you feel. So if your brain sees that there's been a shift in axes or there's a perception of speed and your body feels some bump of acceleration, your brain says, well, I see it and I felt this, so therefore it must be true. And then you believe that you're going that fast. I think for us, what sets us apart is we strive to allow as large of an audience as we can experience things that are, from an experience standpoint, very thrilling without being taxing viscerally. So that's probably really our strong suit is figuring out how we can deliver an experience without viscerally, putting you through it.
So you're tricking us.
Yeah, but don't tell.
It's all a big magic show.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. We won't tell anyone. Oh, wait, this is being recorded.
Oops.
All right, so I'm sure there's a lot of testing. We've talked about safety, and I knew that would come up in conversation, but a lot of testing happens at the warehouse before a ride vehicle is dispatched to its final location. But then how long is the on-site testing process before the public can ride it?
It depends on what it is. It depends on the schedule, it depends on the customer, it depends on the fleet size. We've had some that seem like they're pretty short, and then others that are over a year, I think. So as long as it takes sometimes.
You definitely don't short circuit it. We give our word to the customers that we're going to get their attractions open, and so they have an expectation. And on opening day, when their guests are lined up, they don't want to accept that, hey, we're going to have 80% availability. They want 99 plus. So the only way to ensure that is to get through all the testing. For every one system that makes something go, there's probably, 5, 6 that make it stop. There's so much safety wrappers and other considerations that go around these things that's really what we have to test out. We have to test out that all those failure modes are covered and all those backup systems are in place before we ever run anything with humans for sure. So a tremendous amount of testing, yeah.
Do you put dummies in the vehicles?
I mean, other than me? Yeah, we do. We actually have weighted dummies.
Okay.
We've used everything from sacks of corn, so we don't tear up the interior of the vehicles. But yeah, we fully load test everything as part of the onboard testing.
Okay. We launched our first suspended theater attraction in 2023, and we could not have done it without your team, Dave. For this world's first experience, can you tell us what your designers, engineers, programmers, and managers were responsible for?
So we were responsible for the design, the analysis, the production, the assembly, test, install, and then commissioning of that system. And what was really fun is we were able to do that sort of what I would call the ideal way or the most efficient way, in that really beginning with what is the desired end guest experience and then work backwards from that. And that really allows us to tailor things that are needed, and also we don't have to spend money on things that are not needed. You don't add complexity and parts and equipment, machinery to things that are not really in direct support of the guest experience. So that's what casts us, in a certain direction way up front or early on. So that front piece was really fun to be part of on Suspended Theater.
Yeah. Did you two work on it?
I worked on the tail end of it. I was on site for about a week when we were just fine-tuning the show programming of it, so the motion that it was doing.
Okay.
And that's a
yeah.
critical part, right? Because the importance of having that programming match what you are, what you see with what you feel is extremely critical. That's if you don't do it correctly, that's the genesis of people getting motion sick and
Right.
and otherwise having a very bad experience.
Yeah, we needed to make a custom model for this. So we did most of our motion programming before we got out there to site. So in our modeling tool, we created a model of suspended theater. So we brought in the video, brought in the audio to a virtual space, and created the motion profile. And then we're able to export the data from that model into the system when we get to site. And then from there, we can continue to tweak it and make iterative changes with the creative folks on site.
Yeah. I want to continue talking about programming rides. I'm sure our listeners are really curious about that process, Lauren. So talk to us about that.
So there's two parts of programming rides. So we have some really great programmers here that do the controls programming of the ride. So that's the programming that lives on the vehicle. There's a computer on the vehicle that is doing all of the safety control. It's looking at what the data coming in from the sensors. So real time on the vehicle, it's making the decision. So we have some other folks that do that. The type of programming that I'm most involved in is the show programming. So that's telling the vehicle what sort of motion it needs to do. So that's telling it to pitch and roll and spin and move forward through the space. So it's the motion of the vehicle. So we've created some tools to do most of that programming virtually in a computer and visually see what the vehicle is going to do and ensure that the motion that we're creating is within the limits of the system, that physically it's going to be able to do that when we're done with this process. And it allows us to iterate with the customer very early on to ensure that they're going to get what they want in the end and that we're aligned on the same page and we're stepping in the right direction.
So there's some kind of clearly defined parameters, maybe, is the right word, from the client saying, I want the ride to do this, this, and that, and I'll figure it out. Is that how it works?
The parameters that come from the client are typically more creative terms. Like we might hear terms like zippy or blue or right.
Blue.
These are these very creative terms.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then we take that and translate it into physically what the vehicle needs to do to give that feeling that the customer is after. And it's a really fun process to watch this thing that's in their head and allow us to step forward to help them be able to take that thing that's in their head and bring it to life.
Well, speaking of kind of extracting what's in people's brains or clients when they come to you, I'm sure a lot of people have pitched insane ideas. Can you tell us about some of the crazier ones?
So I normally work on like the make it happen side, and like a lot of the creative ideas have been fleshed out by the time it gets to me usually. We did a job where the vehicle was Jumanji themed, and the gym comes out of the hood of the vehicle. And so like getting all the mechanics to work just right, and they wanted it to be sparkly.
Okay.
And so like deciding how to do that and like which vendor can do it and is it sparkly enough it was a lot of fun. It was interesting. I learned a lot.
And how did you make it sparkly?
Well, that's the secret.
Oh, okay. We can't tell. Okay, fine. Yeah. All right, Dave.
For me, probably one was a project that we did with Campbell Ewald and with Chevrolet to build a 40-foot wide, 6-story tall glockenspiel at the top of the One Times Square building. And that, once delivered, had a welder and a mechanic that would come out and assemble the two halves of the Chevy bow tie. So going up for the first time on a site visit and looking over the edge of the One Times Square building and realize, man, if we drop a wrench or anything, it's going to go through the roof of the police station down there. I mean, and in Times Square. It was a very, very wild idea. And in fact, the person that cold called me just said, look, I know this is a really, really crazy idea, but we at least have to check the box that this can't be done. It's like, hey, wait a minute, hold on, maybe we can do something. Let's see what we can do.
Okay. I learn a lot on this podcast, but I'm really happy to know that the Chevy logo is called the bow tie. Who knew? Okay. Lauren, do you have a story?
I think in my role, I can't call any idea crazy. My role, so I've taken improv acting, and
Oh, really?
I think my role is to say yes and
Yeah.
to the customers, right? So
For sure.
if any idea that they bring to us is not crazy, and it's yes, how can we achieve that? What's the meat of what you're after, and what can we do to give you the experience that you're looking for? So,
I want to know about this improv acting. Like, what was the impetus for you joining improv?
oh, it was a requirement.
Oh, that's why.
It was a requirement
okay.
for my graduate degree had improv acting as a requirement.
Oh, was that at Carnegie Mellon?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, you wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Probably not, but I'm glad I did.
Okay, good.
I feel like I learned a lot from
I think it helps. Yeah, I think everybody should
and
do an improv
that's why it was a
class.
requirement,
Yeah.
because it brought a lot of people out of their shell. And I think brainstorming sessions that I've had along the way have really benefited from that yes and mentality of what are you trying to say, and yes and let's add to it, and let's expand on that idea. I think it's been really valuable.
3 things I think everybody should do in their life is play a sport, especially as a child, improv acting or acting, and serving in a restaurant.
Yes.
All of those things would make you a better person. Anyway, I'm just saying.
In this industry, I would add being an operator in a theme park,
Yeah.
an
Yes.
attractions operator.
Oh, I love that
Kind of
too.
goes along with the weight of
Agree. Yeah, and be that operator at the moment the ride goes down, right? And have to explain to the guests, right, that have traveled sometimes from afar. I mean, that's really kind of at the spirit of that servant mentality that we have to ensure that the operators love us, who had nothing to do with designing or specifying the ride.
Yeah, who hasn't been in a line, waiting in a line, and then the ride breaks down?
Yeah.
And you're so disappointed.
Yeah.
And you hear the boos, and that can't feel good if you're on the
No,
other side
no,
of
no,
that fence. But
no.
what causes something like that in the middle of the day?
It can be so many things. With a lot of these systems, again, they're so complex on the safety side that we have to treat any false alarm as if it's a real deal. So very seldom is it actual equipment breakage that we've experienced. It's really more about there's a sensor went out, so we don't have that second layer of redundancy sitting on top of it. Sometimes it may be something else that's off board that is critical to the show. That could also, cause some of those things to go down. But there's a plethora of reasons.
Yeah, sure. All right. I drive a newer car that's all electric. I love it. I talk about it all the time, probably too much. But I know how far consumer vehicles have come in the last few years. What about ride vehicles? What advancements has your team been a part of, Dave?
The award I had mentioned, the breakthrough technology, that was really about the vehicles that we did for SeaWorld at Antarctica, which were the first of its kind. And that breakthrough was really about 3 things. It was really about power, communication, and navigation. Historically, autonomous vehicles or vehicles that don't have benefit of a track with power provided needed to move slow. They needed to conserve energy. They need to be very, very efficient. So you take something that is a big power user like a motion base or heavy audio systems and things and put them on something that is normally designed to be very economic and very efficient, and then program it to do very fast moves, acceleration, deceleration, again, which use a lot of power. These things normally don't go together. And then the overall objective was to appear smooth and like we're sliding on ice, and be very, again, to de-emphasize the technology. So I think for us that's probably the bigger things. There are applications, obviously, in the movement of people, outside of theme parks and in other venues entirely. That's probably the biggest area recently. But then again, on some of the larger animated figures and show action equipment that we've done, we've had to come up with some very, very unique new ways of thinking. Classically, there'd be some skeleton or some spine, and you're trying to move things with actuators, and with some of the more advanced stuff we've done, we had to rethink all of that because you couldn't afford the weight and the mass of a traditional skeleton. So we have to go to kind of new and alternate ways. And some of that stuff I really can't talk about, but yeah, there's a lot there.
Don't give away the secret sauce.
Right.
Yeah.
Once the customers got a hold of the fact that they were unlimited in what they could do with these vehicles, they started asking for more and more. So
Right.
since that time, we've been able to innovate more and more with that type of technology to give them different types of motions. And someone's coming to us with this creative concept, and the vehicle's going to have to move in a different way in order to achieve that. So we've been able to continue to innovate on that trackless product.
Oh, yeah, amazing.
And a lot of the older systems, they follow a wire, so they really aren't trackless, right? There really is a track, you just can't see it.
Right.
So I think some of the things that we've been able to explore are the ideas that, vehicles can cross paths now. You can dispatch in groups or platoon, have one vehicle very close to the other. It's really incredible what can be done. And we've seen some new designs which are really fun where there is no path. The vehicle can be more random. Some things can be tailored more towards gaming and random inputs that might come from more patron interface.
Right.
Yeah, that interactivity aspect of that, bringing that into our trackless ride vehicles.
Yeah. All right, so stage shows are getting more and more sophisticated too. Walk us through that type of project.
Yeah, well, sort of the bones of it are still safety, right? So you're not riding it, but the actors are, and the talent. So again, it's a lot of the same subsystems that we would deploy in a ride vehicle are deployed exactly on stage. They still have to hit their cues. They still are, in a lot of cases now, very choreographed to media or other off-board pieces, set pieces, or animatronics and things like that. So in some cases, we've been involved in big lifting floors, underwater as well, which is just another variant of stage equipment. So. Definitely getting more and more complex.
I think just across the board, ride vehicles, shows, whatever, I think people would be stunned at the amount of paperwork and safety testing and validation and all the calculations that go into all of it. It's a lot more than people think.
Yeah.
So don't be nervous.
Yeah.
No,
it's very
no.
safe.
Yeah.
we know it's safe. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So before we go, Dave, I want to get your take as you lead Falcon's Attractions into the future. What are you most excited for?
Well, there's a lot of people that talk about a holistic, like an experience economy, and what does that really mean? I think we treasure these moments where we could participate in a world that doesn't really exist, and you really hold on to those memories and take them with you. You take mementos with you. You experience it with friends and family, and I think the opportunity here at Falcons is to be able to bring in the engineering horsepower and prowess to design those systems with the creativity and the incredible skills that are here, everything from media to storytelling, and being able to bring all those things together to deliver some incredible immersive experience. I think I'm just so excited about that.
Nice. All right. Well, it was great to have you all on. You're definitely smarter than me, and I want to thank you for sharing all your stories.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Audrey.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everyone. I am here with Ray Paparella, our Director of Project Execution. This is our lightning round. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Audrey.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
If you hadn't chosen this career path, what do you think you'd be doing?
Well, I started down a path of becoming an architect, but then had to work for a living, so kind of switched over to the construction industry, and the architect path didn't quite work out.
So you'd be an architect right now, you think?
I think I'd be an architect.
Okay. What's your favorite theme park ride?
Transformers. Touches every sense.
So what's your favorite band of all time?
Probably nobody knows his band, but it's Johnny Maestro and the Brooklyn Bridge. Liked them so much I had them play at my daughter's wedding.
No way.
I did. My daughter gave me a couple hours and we took it.
I love that. All right. If you could build a theme park featuring a single intellectual property, what would that IP be?
It would be around the Marvel IPs for sure, but if it has to be specific, I would say Spider-Man.
Okay. Well, that would be a good theme park. I'd go. Okay. In your opinion, which of these alien-based movies is actually based on a true story? E.T., Men in Black, Mars Attacks, or Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Audrey, these questions, those movies are over 35 years old. I would go with Close Encounters.
Close Encounters, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Men in Black's a little newer. I'd have to say Men in Black,
bit.
right? Because I could totally buy that there's aliens walking among us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyway, if you can own any car, what would it be?
It would be a Ferrari.
Good pick. And last question. What's your favorite hobby?
I enjoy cooking, woodworking, and boating.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ray, this was fun. Thanks for being here. Did you have a good time?
I did. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this very fun episode about engineering entertainment. I want to thank Dave Mock, Lauren Riley, and Rachel Kimball for joining me for that discussion. And Ray, thanks again for answering my lightning round questions. See you next month for an all-new episode. Thank you for listening to Experience Imagination, a Falcons Creative Group production. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. Be sure to check out falconscreativegroup.com and follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you have ideas for future episodes or just want to drop us a message, send an email to podcast@falconscreativegroup.com.